If you play music, if you draw pictures with a computer, that's not a game. You don't get a score, but we call it games. And there's sometimes this down thing. Don't play games. Don't play around on the computer. And yet there's a lot of good can come from game playing.
What's up, 3D Print Talk? Oh wait, wrong platform. Yeah, I caved and downloaded TikTok. Been doing a lot of self-reflection lately. That's why I took 2 weeks off. I'm gonna ask you guys for help too. So my goal is to stop working crazy hours. So if you guys, well, I'm on Central Time Zone. So if you guys see me working like after 5 or 6, I want you to yell at me. Yeah, I've been going through a lot of stuff. There's a lot of personal stuff going on right now. So if I'm a little off, that's why I, kind of force myself to go back and do a stream, because I do like doing this stuff. But anyways, yeah, lots of personal stuff going on. Had to take some time away trying to get back to, what's actually important in my life. I still love 3D printing. TH3D is not going anywhere. But it's time for me to pull back from, being that guy that's, bragging about working 80+ hours a week to, focusing on doing stuff that I enjoy. I really enjoy riding my motorcycles, which I haven't really done in the last 3 years. There's a bunch of other hobbies like drones and stuff that I've been neglecting myself, and I'm not going to go into too many details, but basically there's been a lot of stuff compounding that has been really stressing, my relationship with my wife and with, even friends and family. So, I took 2 weeks to kind of pull back and literally sit down and figure out what the hell do I want from life? I know I want to keep TH3D going. I really enjoy doing this company. I really enjoy seeing the stuff that we put out, whether that's, just a, silly YouTube video where I'm talking about something that I'm working on, or it's a product, or, just helping people out in general. I really do get a lot of fulfillment from that, and I want to keep that going. I just kind of wanted to give you guys a heads up that, hey, I am going to be cutting back because I have to. I can't keep burning the candle at both ends. I've been doing this for 3 years, and, I'm 32. I can't keep it up. It's going to be kind of pointless if I am working myself to death and, I'm by myself because I've neglected, everybody in my life. So, fingers crossed that, things are going to keep going smoothly. Things are on the up and up, and it just keeps me motivated to do better. So anyways, yeah, so updates on company stuff. So I did talk to Griffin, who's our engineer here that's doing like the PCB runs and everything. For the EasyBoard 2, there are pictures. It's real. It's here. It exists. They're on the way. So this is one of the retail boards. There were no changes from this one to the one that is being pre-ordered. Ideally, like we were trying to hit this week or next week. Forgot to factor in that there is a Chinese holiday because the assembler is out of China, and a lot of the other parts come out of China too. So we're dealing with all these time frames and everything being backed up. So tentatively, it looks like next week or the week after we should have everything, and we're not putting these on boats. I know you guys might have seen all these delays from all these shipping containers that are being backed up in all the ports. We will be shipping these, usually DHL or FedEx, directly from the assembler once all the testing and everything's done to us, so we'll have them in a couple days. I just want to give everybody an update. Now, we will not be doing another round of pre-orders. So we did, I believe it's 180 pre-orders. They all sold out. We will have some boards extra once we get the batch in. I've already told Griffin to go ahead and just start running another 200 boards. I wanted our most dedicated people, the people that responded to the survey and everything, to get a chance to pre-order the board. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of pre-orders, but, I'm trying to, one of the things I'm trying to do is be a little more understanding about people. And, while I don't like doing it, just because I'm impatient, I realize that there's some people that just rather buy it and, who cares if it takes a month to show up, as long as I have it, So yeah, that's where we're at. I'll provide updates as we get them. It's really just trying to make a best estimate, based on the information that's coming from the assembler. All the parts are there. The problem is right now just, labor shortages. It's affecting stuff all over the world. Yay. This post-COVID pandemic world sucks. I'm gonna just be honest with you guys. I'm so tired of dealing with delays on every little thing. Yeah, it's rough, but you know what? Complaining about it doesn't do anything. But, just got to keep going forward. So, what else? I should have the prototype for the Ender 6 top next week. I talked to Joe. There were some delays with the acrylic and the extrusion. We originally wanted to do black extrusion, but the black extrusion is back ordered. So I said, you know what? Screw it. It's just extrusion. Go with the silver. Whatever's going to make it, who cares what the color is at the end of the day, as long as, the cover for the top of the machine works as an enclosure. I'm trying to think of other stuff that we have going on here. I think that's about it. Like I legitimately actually took 2 weeks off, and just would pop in and, say to our team, like, hey, how's everything going? You guys need anything? And they're like, no, we're good. So, I just want to say, thank you to Tor, to Danielle, to Mac, to Peter, and to Joe and Sean. All you guys did a great job while I was gone, and actually, you know, was really nice to be able to take some time away to process things for myself for once instead of running at a million miles an hour. So it's good to know that it's finally at a point where I can take some time off and recharge, and I will be doing that more frequently. So I will also be off Monday. So if you guys are wondering where I'm at, not that I do too much stuff on the public facing side on Monday, but I will be taking off Monday for our 4-year wedding anniversary. And yeah, so yeah, I did get a new desk. This showed up. I don't know if you guys see how deep this is, but it's 36 inches deep. It's a little bit bigger than I thought, but it's pretty chooch. Like, it's 1.5 inches thick top. This is a U-line packing desk. It's pretty good. So, but anyways, you guys need to ask me questions, and we will be doing these on Wednesdays, like today at 2 o'clock. So part of that commitment to me not working crazy hours is doing these streams in, you know, during business hours instead of, you know, at 5 o'clock, which is when I should have been winding down. I think 2 o'clock on Wednesdays will be good, kind of give you a middle of the week thing. And I'm going to let you guys post questions in the chat. And what I'm going to do now is poll the giveaway for September. Now, what I'm going to do now, just because everything's kind of messed up, is I'm going to pull this and then we're going to do a new form. So let me go ahead and pull these, and we're going to find out who is going to win the $150 gift card to the store. And this will be delivered digitally. We have gift cards now. Yeah, we're going to use that system to send out the gift cards. So let's see. We've got all the names here, and then we're going to do a instant poll today for a $25 gift card. So we're going to pull for the 150, which was for last month's Wheel of Names. Let's see here. And then we'll do a quick little giveaway, and then next week I will have the form live. How does that work? Can you guys forgive me for that, for not being super organized? Literally just got back to work yesterday, so I'm just trying to get caught up with everything. All right, so let's find out who is going to be the winner of the $150 gift card for September. Let's go ahead, and I'll go ahead and share the screen, and let's see who won. All right, Sully, Mr. Sully, or Mrs.? I don't know. I feel like that could be either one. I do have your email, and Sully's favorite material to print with, because this survey was the one was asking what's your favorite printer and what's the material you print with the most, and Sully answered his Ender 5 Pro is his favorite machine, and he prints with Pet G. So, Sully, I will go ahead and, I don't know if you're watching, but I'll go ahead and you will get a gift card in your email. So, let me just make a note here. Open up Notepad++, 150 gift card winner for September 2021. All right. I figure like that's going to be way easier than trying to do a printer. That was so annoying trying to drop ship a printer. All right, let's see what we got here for questions and see if I can answer said questions. All right. Where did chat go? Where did my chat go? All right. Okay. Let's see. I am looking up in here. Tom Taylor said a package that went missing in April showed up yesterday. Glad I didn't wait for it. Yeah, sounds like USPS. Oh yeah, there is more updates on company stuff. USPS has suspended all shipments to Australia and New Zealand, and we are currently fighting with USPS to get our customers their money back for packages that were turned away. So Peter and Danielle are working on that. But yep, fun stuff. Let's see. Do we have any questions in here? You guys are pretty quiet. I've been gone for 2 weeks and you guys don't have like a slew of freaking questions. I'm really shocked. So let's see. Dr. Versetto, here's a tip from an old man. The only reason we work is to make life at home better. You are right. You know, there's no point in working a ton and not having a home life is one of the things I'm learning. I'm only 32, but I'm glad I'm getting it now. Better late than never, right? Let's see. Shoddy says he's got an Ender 3 with a BL Touch and he can't get prints to stick. So if you can't get prints to stick in general, now if you have a BL Touch, so you have what's called an offset, and the offset is what tells the printer firmware how far down the nozzle needs to go to be at the 0 position on the bed after the sensor triggers. So the sensor, whether it's a BL Touch or something like our Easy ABL, which is my preferred one, but I might be a little biased, the BL Touch has an offset. So as the pin comes down, the pin's going to touch the bed before the nozzle does, which that could be anywhere from 1 millimeter to 3 to 5, depending on how your sensor's mounted. So in the actual printer firmware, there's a setting called your Z offset, and that Z offset tells the printer the distance the nozzle needs to be moved down on the bed after the sensor trigger. So let's say in this hypothetical printer situation, let's say I have Ender 3 V2 sitting here with a BL Touch, and the pin touches the bed and goes into the triggered position, meaning it pulls itself back up at 1.5 millimeters. So if the nozzle's at 1.5 millimeters when that pin touches the bed and sends the trigger signal, that means my Z offset would be negative 1.5 millimeters. So that's usually the main reason that you're not going to get prints sticking on the bed when you have an auto bed leveling system, whether it's a BL Touch or an Easy ABL or any of the other options that are out there. I think Creality's got their own BL Touch knockoff now. But you have to have that offset set. Now, you're not ever really going to get the offset perfectly every single time. Now, the benefit of properly set up firmware now, if you're running like the Ender 3 V2 with the stock touchscreen, or not touchscreen, the stock color screen, I believe what's called live adjustment is active, meaning while it's printing the first layer, you can go and modify the Z offset and the nozzle will move in real time as you click the little knob. So the baseline, or the process you should do, I don't know why I said baseline. The process should be get your Z offset set to a roughly accurate number, and then when you run your first print, or actually every print, you just want to run like a skirt around the print and then eyeball that skirt to see if it's at the proper height while it's printing. So, for example, if every time I run a printer, I don't care if the printer is consistent every single time, I never have to do baby stepping or adjust it, I always check that first layer and I'm ready to adjust. Now, the nice thing is when you have an auto bed leveling system, if you have it set up correctly and the sensor's working and reading, the only thing you should ever have to mess with would be the initial nozzle height for the first layer. Whereas with manual leveling, you're physically adjusting 4 knobs on the bed to level it out while it's printing. It's a pain in the ass. So when you're putting, when you put an ABL system on there, you're trading off, in the worst case scenario, the only adjustment you should ever have to do is that adjustment to the first layer. You're not playing with knobs on the bed. You're not, physically adjusting things on the printer. You're just using the knob and turning it and letting the motors do the work for you. So, I have some printers that I never have to touch. I can send a print job to them. Like my Ender 6 is pretty consistent. I've noticed that it really depends on the machine. The Ender 3s are good machines, but they have more chances for play mechanically, which then can contribute to sensor drift, where people think the sensor is actually drifting in accuracy when in reality it's the physical machine just adding inconsistencies because of the motion components on it not being repeatable every single time to, the nth degree. But always check my first layer on the printers. I always use the live adjustment if I think that it's too far away or too close. And that's basically what you want to do. You want to lean on that. And I see you said you're running Gyros firmware. I personally have not used Gyros firmware, but I have heard that they do have a lot more features to extend the LCD. My preferred thing is just use the 12864 LCDs that we have on our Ender 3 V2. It's like a $20 screen, and it just works a lot better. The Gyros firmware is cool, and I wish that they would push their changes up to Marlin so that Marlin in general can get their changes, because the problem is when you have like all these different little spin-offs and branches, Linux does the same thing, where people will make changes and then never push their changes back up, especially when they start honing in on one particular machine. You end up getting this fragmentation, and we have our own firmware, but our firmware tries to stay following Marlin's code base. So, and what we're adding to it is that layer of ease of configuration, things that are pre-set up, and then we do a lot of back-end tuning and stuff. So, but at the core, like the TH-Ready Unified Firmware, is Marlin. It's Marlin 2.0. It's just in a easier to use presentation. It's documented, and it's easier for new people or people that just don't want to learn every single little in and out of Marlin. But the problem is, as cool as firmware like Gyres, and I think there's one called Alex for the VoxLab, as they add all these cool features in, if they don't ever push those back up to Marlin, and people like me who only pull from Marlin, those cool new features will never get into there, and proliferate to other branches. Like there's features that I've coded up, like one of them, if you guys will notice in Marlin, I think it's like slim LCD menus or something like that. That was a feature that I came up with to reduce the footprint for the 1284p chips because they have limited program memory. What that did is I added an extra code to strip out menus that were non-essential, that most people don't use, so we could get more features on there instead of having LCD menus. There was other optimizations as well, but that was a feature that I came up with on our own branch and then pushed that up to Marlin because I thought it was a useful feature for everybody. The benefit of open source is that if you're doing these changes, you should be pushing back up to the main project if you come up with something cool, because then it benefits everybody. So, but yeah, so there we go. I just talked about firmware for I don't even know how many minutes. Hopefully I feel like I'm articulating things better right now and taking things a little bit slower, but I could be wrong. Let me know. Let's see. Tom Beluco is asking, did you do anything cool with the engraver? It's been a while since I've been able to attend. So I actually lent the engraver to our shop tech, Sean, because he has more time to play with things than I do. And going back to trying to figure out, like, what kind of stuff do I want to be spending my time on in terms of, fun projects, not work. I was like, what, man, like, he was really interested. I was like, you can borrow it indefinitely. I don't need it and I don't have the time. If I'm going to play with something else, I'd rather be wrenching on my car or, taking my motorcycles out. So, Doc Brown's asking, what's the best way to maintain the textured PEI sheet? I've read light sanding will help. So I have not done any sanding to the textured plates. I'm assuming you're talking about the EasyFlex textured. The only thing I do on ours is once in a while, I will wipe them down with isopropyl alcohol just to clean all the residue off just from printing on it, from me handling it. Sometimes I use, actually quite frequently I use Vision Miner. I use Vision Miner even when doing PLA, just because, it's kind of like an insurance policy. Like, I know it's probably not going to come off, but I'd rather just put it on there and, have it on there and not need it versus need it and not have it. So, but once in a while I'll go ahead and just clean it off, start fresh. I do use Vision Miner all the time with our smooth and textured plates, for ABS especially. ABS is like hit and miss with PEI. Sometimes like smaller stuff sticks fine, but then you get a bigger part and it just doesn't have enough oomph and you'll get a little bit of curling, and the Vision Miner takes care of that. The only thing I would say, I've never sanded a textured PEI sheet, And the thing you have to remember it is those textured plates. You're saying I said sheet because that's what you said, but they're plates. At least from us, our textured sheets. That PEI is baked onto that plate. It's not actually like an adhesive stuck down. You know, it's not plate, adhesive, and then PEI. It's plate, PEI, and it's baked on there. So it's not that thick. It's durable, and it's thick enough for use for, you know, heavy use for months and months and months and months and months. But one thing I can tell you is you'll be much quicker to sand through the textured PEI versus the smooth, because the smooth PEI that we sell is actually it's the same steel plate that we use for the textured, but it has a PEI sheet on it, and that sheet is, you know, thicker than a texture that's just sprayed on. That's a PEI coating. So hopefully that makes sense. I would not recommend sanding down the textured sheet. You guys have to remember too that whether it's a plate from us, whether it's our Easy Flex or it's, you know, Wham Bam or Build Tack or insert brand name here that makes flex plates, everybody's got their own. The easy, like those type of products, those are consumable products, and they're going to wear out, and it's just something that's going to be a wear item. You know, it's like nozzles, it's like wheels, it's like bearings, it's like belts. It is a wear item, you know, and how long that item lasts depends on how much you use it, how rough you are on it, you know, how many too close first layers you've had, and how many nozzle tracks are on it. You know, for example, like we usually get about a year out of our ABS plates and our print farm, and those are the ones that are run the hardest. Those are the ones we're using Vision Miner on all the time. You know, it's got a lot of stress on there holding down those parts and holding them flat. And we still get about a year out of our plates before we have to replace them. And, you know, with the textured ones, like I hate throwing stuff out, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's a consumable item, and, you know, you can toss it. You can, you know, try sanding it down and maybe sticking a sheet on it. But, you know, we usually end up just tossing them once they're at their end of their life. They're not cheap, but they're not that expensive. You know, if I can get a year off or get a year out of it, what are the plates, like $20 for like the under threes, somewhere around there? You know, not that big of a deal. So, I mean, yeah, I hate to break it to you guys, but if you're in 3D printing and, you know, you're looking for a hobby that doesn't cost a lot, this is not the hobby. This is not the hobby for you. You know, it's not expensive, but this is not a cheap hobby. I don't have to tell you guys that. Like, even if you're buying cheap stuff, you know, not getting stuff from us or, you know, other places that, you know, focus a little bit on higher quality, you're still going to be paying a lot, and, you know, it's not a cheap hobby. I do want to talk about the E3D Revo. I had a friend of mine who was on part of the beta team that had these for a while, and I've known about them for, I don't know, probably about 7 or 8 months now. But I think this is a really cool design. I'm really curious to see how well these print. My only concern is, I believe I haven't looked at them. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've heard is that, like, you can see here, the thermistor and the heater are all one unit. You know, whereas before you could just change your thermistor or heater cartridge, where it looks, I believe you're going to have to totally replace this whole unit, which is going to be more costly. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I like the idea of this. I like the simplicity of this, but I also like the flexibility of being able to change out my thermistor and heaters. The biggest thing, I think the biggest game changer for this is going to be where they have the all-in-one nozzle and heat break. So if you guys have ever had leaks, now I haven't had leaks in a while, but this whole integrated nozzle and heat break system I do think is nice. I do think it's going to simplify things for a lot of people. You can see they do have backwards compatibility with, you know, with the previous stuff. But it's pretty cool. So it appears to be a drop-in replacement for the V6, you know, which is good for compatibility and mounts. You should be able to swap it out. I think it's a neat idea. I haven't played with this, so I can't really give an opinion, but I think it's interesting. I am glad to see, and I'm sure the Voron people will get their panties in a bunch, because then they can't pay China to make cheap copies of this like they did with the Slice stuff. But it's good seeing that E3D is patenting their stuff. I don't have any problem with E3D patenting their stuff. You know, like, if you want to do open source, do open source. You know, my personal opinion is I don't think they really used open source, like, from my perspective, because we've been approached by them, because we do sell stuff that's based on their open source designs, like the Tough Extruder, which is a Titan clone. You know, I use the word clone loosely because it's open source. Anybody can make it. They released it under a license that allows you to make it. But, you know, my whole thing is, if you really truly believe in the open source stuff, and it's not just a marketing bullet point for you, then don't be harassing people that are actually taking advantage of that open source design and, you know, having somebody else make it. Me personally, when we've looked into E3D stuff, just from a business standpoint, the margins are really, really thin, and they expect a lot from you as a reseller, but, you know, things could be different. This was like 2 years ago, I want to say, maybe more. But basically it wasn't advantageous for us, and we'd be losing money or running very close to breaking even on stuff if we sold their parts. You know, I do think they make good stuff, but, you know, we've also had them be like, well, hey, you should sell our stuff, you know, because you're selling the other stuff. And it's like, okay, we'll make it worth our while to sell it. You know, because the suppliers we use to get stuff made that are based on, that use these open source designs from them, they take care of us. You know, they get us good quality parts, and if there's an issue, I just send them an email and say, hey, we had, you know, this issue with this batch, this part, that, and then they'll either give us a credit or they'll send us out new stuff. Whereas when I talked to E3D, you know, a couple of years ago, basically, if you had, you know, if they sent us stuff that was bad, we'd be on the hook for the warranty replacement for whatever parts. Meaning, if like a heater block was bad, had a defect, you know, a heater cartridge went out, or a thermistor, like, we would have to be footing the replacement for it, and they would not be reimbursing us. Now, things might be different now. I haven't talked to them in a while, but that's one of the reasons we didn't sell E3D stuff, because it was just like, okay, we got really thin margins, like we're talking 10 to 20%, if that, and we also are on the hook for any warranty stuff. It just wasn't worth it. So, but I do think they do make good stuff. Let's move on from that. What's the next one? But yeah, I do think it's a good hot end. I do think it's going to simplify things and take a lot of pain out, because, like, I haven't had a ton of issues with leaking nozzles. I did when I first started out. And it was frustrating. So if they can remove that pain point, you know, from printing, then I think that's a good positive for most people. But I probably will, I probably will end up buying one of those to try it out, because I am curious. So, let's see. Oh, that's another thing. Like, so, one last thing for move on from the E3 and the open source stuff. So, E3D's license for the V6 and the Titan is a GPL V3, meaning you have to provide source for it, which we do, and anybody can make it. So the only thing is, I can't sell, like, our Tough Extruder as an E3D Titan, because that's their name, and I've never done that. I've never made it, tried to pass it off as something as E3D. The problem is, when I asked them, so, like, okay, I have customers that don't mind spending $100 on an extruder. You know, the Titan was up there when that was, like, the flagship extruder. You know, and I got customers that probably wouldn't mind spending 80, 90 bucks for a V6, but I also have customers on the lower end that don't mind buying, you know, the cheaper clones that, you know, get the job done. And they would not let us sell both, have the E3D products and the third-party ones that we have made overseas, you know, to provide the customers different options. Now, the way I look at it is, okay, the person that's willing to drop $100 on a hot end is probably not going to go for the $20 or $30 V6 clone. You know, same thing for the extruders. I don't think the person that's willing to drop $100 on a Titan extruder is going to go with the $30 or $40 clone. But, you know, their whole thing was just like, no, you can't have that. So I was like, well, the margins are terrible, and I think we'll lose more sales and we'll lose more customers by only having the expensive option. I like having a balance of both. Have something that's, you know, on the more entry level that works and gets the job done, and have something on the higher end. So I am going over some agreements right now. So there should be some new stuff coming in the next month or two here. So, but yeah. So next question, Ender 5 Plus. David says the Meanwhile fan is very loud. Any suggestions? A replacement fan? Yeah, I do agree. The stock one I think is RSP 600, if I'm correct. I think it's the one that I put in the Chiron, which the Chiron's in the print farm now. The fan is very loud. Realistically, I don't think there's going to be much wiggle room on replacing the fan unless you go with something that's bigger, but then you're going to have to like print something to adapt it to the stock housing to actually blow that air through. The problem is that fan is designed to run all the time, so I'm assuming Meanwhile wants it to run all the time. That's how it was tested. And I'd be concerned about putting something that's a little bit lower airflow in there. If you're dead set on doing that, I would look up the size fan, like go in there and see what is it, 12 or 24 volts, what are the dimensions on it, and then put something in that, you know, that's a little bit lower and monitor the temperatures on it. Now, you might be okay. You got to remember when your printers are first starting their prints, they're blasting the bed at full temp, they're blasting the hot end at full temp, and you have a much higher amp draw at the beginning of a print. Now, once a print starts, you know, your hot end goes into its PID loop, so instead of it being on all the time, it's just turning on and off really fast to maintain the temperature, and the bed is doing the same thing. So, you know, you're not fully loading the power supply throughout the entire print. You might be able to get away with doing a lower flow fan. The only thing I could tell you is, you know, don't go too low, and, you know, make sure that it's not running too hot. Like if you change the fan out, put your hand on it, like feel where it's getting warm. Usually you'll see like screw holes on the side, which is usually where the MOSFETs are bolted to the chassis to act as a heatsink. You know, feel how warm the air is coming out of the power supply, feel the sides of it and see if it's actually heating up too much. You know, the Meanwhiles are pretty robust and they're usually rated to run in hotter environments, which may also be the reason that Meanwhile has an always on fan, because they're expecting that unit to be in an environment that's, you know, a harsher, warmer climate. So it could just be overkill. But, you know, just be smart about it, monitor it. You'll at the end of the day, you'll probably be fine putting a lower flow fan in there. You know, but I don't want to be like, oh yeah, you'll be fine, don't worry about it, because, you know, you might not be. You know, I don't know how hot the room is you're in, and I've not done it myself. But in general, just, you know, approach it from a common sense point of view. And, you know, just keep an eye on the temps, and, you know, if they seem fine, they're not getting too warm, like the exhaust isn't getting super hot, you're probably fine. And most of the Meanwhiles, you can look up the data sheet on it. Most of them have over temperature protection, so if it does get too hot, it'll shut down. I'd be really surprised if you had enough load on that during a normal print to actually trigger that, though. So I think you'll be okay. Tunke says that Gyre stuff has been merged into Marlin. Okay. I think a Marlin release came out while I was taking my time off, but I haven't looked at their site. I'm going to be diving into firmware again next week. I did get the bed installation in. I just took the pictures of that today, and I'm going to post the pictures and stock those shortly after the stream today. So, we do have some awesome high temp bed insulation, and it's good up to 120 degrees Celsius. So those took forever to get in, because I ordered those, and those came from Chicago, and they were back ordered for over a month. Mark Morgan says, your firmware is awesome. I appreciate it, man. I put a lot of time into that. You have it for the SVO1. Any plans on including the SVO3? Yes, the SVO3 thing is going to be the next one I'm going to sit down and get supported. Basically, in my queue is I want to get the firmware, the DIY firmware for the EasyBoard V2 completed. And then after that, I want to get the SVO3. So I've got a bunch of printers sitting over here in my garage on the other side. And I want to just kind of get through that backlog. So I'm going to try my best to not buy any more printers. And it's funny because I have the Aquila X2 literally sitting in the box. You can see it right there, right in front of my little impact there. But yeah, so trying to not take on too much, you know. And like I said, I'm hoping that with you know, a lot of the changes I'm making, like getting enough sleep, going on a schedule, eating better, and working out every other day, that I should be more efficient in the time that I am spending, you know, because at a certain point I felt like I'm not being efficient, and my solution was just to throw more hours at it instead of being more efficient at things. So hopefully we'll see. But I got a lot of other people that are helping me out here on the back end. So, all right. Claudius, Pad TV, yeah, the giveaway is closed. Yeah, it will be open next stream. I did not get a chance to set that up before starting. And we pulled our winner for last month, so I will send that out when we're done. But anyways, Claudius says, how's it going? I had a question. My Ender 3 and CR10 keep giving me thermal runaways, and let's see. I mean, I did everything I could think of to fix the problem, change my thermistors. So thermal runaway, in my experience, is usually the cause of a couple things. One could be wiring. I can't tell you how many times we've had printers in the print farm that, you know, are many years old that have a lot of time on them, that no matter how many times we changed the thermistors or the heater cartridges, they'd always trip thermal runaway. Well, what ended up happening was somewhere in the wire loom, just from the repetitive motion of the head moving back and forth, doing, you know, thousands and thousands of hours of printing, it just broke, and it was an intermittent break. So, you know, you'd start printing and everything be fine. All of a sudden, it would trip it, and then it would trip the thermal runaway. So, my whole thing would be test the resistance on your thermistors and test the resistance on your heater cartridge. Now, an Ender 3 is going to have a 40-watt heater cartridge at 24 volts, so you're going to be right around 13 to 15 ohms of resistance across the two heater lines going to your hot end. Both of them use the same 100K thermistor, so at room temp, you should be anywhere between 80 to 100K ohms of resistance. Now, what I like to do to try to rule out a break in the wire is I will attach my probe leads on my multimeter. So if you guys don't have a multimeter, we do sell them and have some in our shop. I'm Mr. Fancy Pants here, and I have a higher end one. I splurged and bought the EV blog one. But you take your multimeter and you're going to put it on resistance. Okay, so on mine there, little ohm sign. So you're going to put on resistance, and you're going to take the two ends here, your two probe leads. Okay, you're going to put a lead on each wire. So you've got, you know, one wire going to your hot end heater cartridge and the other wire going to there. So you have two wires. So you put those on there, you see what it reads. I might have one in my drawer. Hang on. Look at that, I do, and it's even got ferrules on it. Okay, so you've got your two leads here, okay? And hopefully this one works. I'm gonna try to do this. I have so many hands. Okay, so this is a 24 volts. So you see there? That's the resistance of the heater cartridge. You can see here I'm reading 13.34 ohms. Now, I'm moving this, and it really shouldn't change that much. But, yeah. So if there was a break in the wire, you would see this like, you know, like I'm just messing with the ends here. So you would see stuff like where it's jumping around. So if you have your leads on the end of the wires for your heater cartridge or your thermistor, and you're moving, you know, the wiring around, you know, like, you know, grab the bundle of wires by your hot end, kind of go like this, like gently, just move them around, and watch that number on the multimeter and see if it changes. Do that for the thermistor, do that for the heater cartridge, and if any of them moves and you're sure it wasn't because you accidentally bumped the probe leads, then that tells you that there's a break somewhere in the wire. So those are the most common times I've seen thermal runaway trips, is usually with a physical break in the wire. I wouldn't call heaters and thermistors like consumable items, but they are just like everything else. You know, there's entropy in the universe. they're going to wear out and eventually just stop working correctly. So whenever in doubt, if I'm just having weird issues with thermal runaways, I will completely replace the wires for the heater cartridge and the thermistor from the hot end all the way back to the board. If I can't find anything else, because, it could just be that there's a break and maybe me messing with the wires didn't expose it. You just got to kind of use the process of elimination, and that same method works for your bed wiring, your bed thermistor, your heater, hot end wire, your hot end heater wiring, and your hot end thermistor as well. So, kind of approach it from a, one piece at a time aspect. Now, the other thing you can do is, like, let's say you have an issue where it just stops heating and you don't have a wiring problem, you don't have a break in the wires, or your heater's working. You could also check the output on your hot end. So like this is our easy board 2. So we've got these two right here for the hot end, these two right here for the bed. Now what you can do is tell it to heat and then put your 2 meter probe leads on the actual screw terminals while it's being told to heat. Set it to the DC voltage setting. It's pretty universal, but usually it's the solid line with the 3 dashes underneath it, and this will tell you if you're actually getting voltage out. So, and what this will tell you is the MOSFET that's switching the power going to that heater cartridge, is it actually putting the power out? Because usually if MOSFETs fail and there's no visible indication that they failed, they'll either fail in a closed state or an open state. I've had them fail in both states. And you'll know if it fails in a closed state because as soon as you turn the printer's power on, the hot end temperature is going to start shooting up. That's fairly obvious. What's not fairly obvious is if you have it fail in an open state where it's being told to turn on and it's just not passing the current through to the heater, and then it just doesn't do anything. So, kind of use that. So basically, the TLDR, if you're having thermal runaway issues, check your wiring, check the terminations, make sure those are solid. Check the resistances on your heater cartridge or your bed heater and your thermistors. And then if none of those yield any results, check the actual output on the MOSFET. And one thing to keep in mind too is I have had boards where they'll run for hours fine, and all of a sudden the MOSFET will just get to a certain temperature and it'll stop working. Those are really hard to track down. I like to, even before I had TH3 as a company, I always had spare boards on hand, because in the event that I am hitting a wall trying to troubleshoot, I have at least something I could throw in temporarily. Even if it's not the same exact board, even if it's a little kludgy to get in there, if I suspect the control board's having issues, I usually try to have even a cheap spare on hand that I know works, and be able to swap it out to kind of eliminate that. If you have multiple printers, which I know a lot of you guys do, especially like the CR10 and the Ender 3, those boards can be swapped. Swap them out. Obviously you have to change the firmware on it, but kind of think about what you have at your disposal here. In terms of your own stuff. Like, just because you don't have a spare board, well, if you have another printer, especially one that takes the same footprint board, swapping it out isn't that hard, and it allows you to eliminate and whittle down what the potential issues are, because you could just have a board that's flaky. Everything's going to fail. Our boards are eventually going to fail. Crealities, Big Tree Techs, some sooner than others, but everything's going to eventually stop working. It's just how it is. So all right, so we got 10 minutes left. Let me see what other questions we got here. Andrew Osmond says on his Ender 3 Max, I get layer separation with PLA on my tall prints after about 1/3 of my print. The total height is about 11.2 inches. Is it from cooling too fast? That's an interesting one. Now, it could be a couple of things. If you've ruled out any sort of movement issues, meaning the Z is moving the amount it's supposed to and it's not moving too far gradually over and over until it just is separating the layers physically. I think the easiest thing to find out what's going on there would be to, I don't know, print your temp you're printing at up the print temperature by 10 degrees Celsius and maybe drop the speed down about 10-20%. Because if it is cooling too fast, if you bump the temperature up and slow the print down, that's going to give the plastic more opportunity to stay molten and get better layer adhesion. Before you do anything, though, I will tell you, go grab a completely different roll of filament and run the same print. Because I can't tell you how many times I've just gotten a bad roll of filament from somewhere, and I've been beating my head against the wall trying to figure out what the issue is, changing print settings, changing slicer settings, going over my printer. And it ended up just being a roll of filament that had some problems. To give you guys an example, like you guys know I love coax. It's why we sell it. One thing I've noticed with filaments that are made in the U.S., like coax, atomic, printed solids, Jesse PLA, even when, Matter or Maker Geeks was around, they all require, the U.S. made stuff seems to require hotter temperatures for PLA. And we're talking, I printed 220 to 230 as a starting point for any made in U.S. PLAs. I don't know what the technical reason is. The only thing I can think of is maybe there's not as much filler in them. They're actually more PLA and they don't have stuff. Like I have heard of companies overseas, thinning out their PLA with HIPS because PLA is expensive. HIPS is very cheap and has a very similar melting point as PLA. So, I've noticed that the Chinese brand filaments, I can get away with printing at like 190 to 200, but US made stuff, I have to crank the temp up to 220, 230. Doesn't bother me. I try to print mostly stuff made in the US here because it is one of the few products, in this industry that is actually able to be manufactured here in the US. So, and I try to support other small businesses. But yeah, let's see here. Claudia said, thanks for the advice. Also, my CR10, my temp is stuck. Like I said it, but it won't go up or down. I even took the heater out and told me it's 250. So on most boards, I'm not going to say every board, not our EasyBoard V2, because I don't know if you guys saw that. This board has protections against shorting out things on the thermistor inputs. If your printer board is consistently reading a high temperature when it's not actually hot, that's an indication that at some point you were messing around with the nozzle or in the general area of the heater block and the thermistor, and that higher voltage, the 12 or 24 volts that feeds the heater, made its way into the thermistor input. So what usually happens if it doesn't outright kill the processor because the higher voltage input, what happens is it just kind of screws up the input-output pin that reads the resistance of the thermistor to tell what temperature is at, and it's just constantly reading a high temperature. And unfortunately, unless you have, equipment like I have, like, the hot air stations and, the ability to replace the processor itself on the board, you're probably going to have to replace your entire board. Unless you have a friend that can do it, the surface mount repair is not cheap. I actually don't do repairs here anymore, just because the amount of time it takes. At a certain point, I got to just say, no, I don't have time to do this stuff as much as I'd like to, But yeah, if you have a high temp reading on any thermistor input, whether it's your bed or your hot end all the time, that usually means something happened. Who's barking? Something happened to send that higher voltage into the IO pin and, screw up the reading. So, hey, Remo, you gonna make an appearance? Because I'm gonna wrap this up. Samantha's brother's here, and I wanted to say hi. And we're coming up on the hour mark anyway, so let me see if there's any other quick questions here that I can answer before I give Remo his dingo stick. Dingo stick? And then let you guys go for the day. Let's see here. All right. I'm looking to see if there's any other quick questions here. Oh, DeWitt, the other Tim, he said on the Duet 3 Mini, in order to do a PID tune on the heated bed, do I just use M303 command? I'm kind of confused for the bed tuning. I remember having issues with it, and I don't think I was able to get it figured out. Maybe someone else knows. There is a rep firmware section in our TH3D Discord server. I wish I knew the answer, but I remember struggling with it on my CR10 that's got a Duet 2 Wi-Fi in it. No, I like Duet's hardware, but I'm just going to be honest, I am not personally a fan of how they set their firmware up. I know some people love it. Don't take it as me, shitting on it. It's just not my cup of tea. It's not bad. I prefer Marlin. Let's see. Downriver said, the Molex connectors on the Ender 5 thermistor and heater tend to come loose from time to time. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm not a fan of having quick connects on my heater and thermistor lines or even fan lines because I look at them as one more point of failure, or two technically, because if you got two wires, that's two connectors, and if they get loosened up, especially on the thermistor line, it's going to influence the readings. I used to put quick connects and disconnects, quick connect disconnects on my heaters and thermistors until I started having tons of issues with them being the point of failure, and I said, screw it, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm just directly wiring things. So Jason Div says he's got an Ender 3 V2, he put a BL Touch, and I get false errors while trying to detect them at 80% of the time. I would check your wiring. The most common problems you're going to have with any ABL probes, assuming your firmware set up correctly, is going to be poor wiring. So where it's not going to pass things correctly and you're going to get incorrect readings. So I'm going to do a couple things for you guys remaining. I'm going to give Remo his dingo stick. I'm going to show you guys him because I think it's been a couple weeks. We went to the vet. We're only actually 90 pounds. My scale was off here, but you guys remember how small he was when I got him. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. He's so big. Oh. There we go. Yeah. Look at the size of this dog. He's a freaking tank. Like, I know, you don't know what... Oh. Little ballsy sucker. Was not expecting him to just eat himself off. But anyways, we're going to do a giveaway after I give him his dingo stick. Can you sit? Oh, no. Wait. Shake. No. One paw. Shake. Shake. Touch. Can you speak? Up. Can you speak? We've been working on this. Can you speak? Come on. I know you can do it. Come on. Speak. Oh, good boy. Good boy. There we go. All right. Let's give you guys some free shit. How's that? I know you guys like free shit. Let's see. Where the hell is Nightbot? Nightbot. All right, I'm getting logged in. Yeah, that's my baby. Clara is with mom right now. Oh wait, here's Clara. Clara, do you want a dingo stick? Because you're a pretty girl. Do you want a dingo stick too? Yeah. You just get one because you're a good girl. All right. Let's see. So, I'm gonna give channel members a little extra luck to win the giveaway because I appreciate you guys' support. We're going to do. Let's see here. I need to think of a giveaway word that's not going to trigger YouTube. We're gonna use the keyword is going to be chonker. 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 So if you guys want to win, I don't know, what did I say? A $50 gift card? I think I said a $50 gift card. I gotta wrap this up because I gotta use the restroom. I spilled my maw. And then all you need to do to win it is, if you're on Discord, send me a message on Discord. That'd be the easiest. Or actually, if you have an order number, if you're an existing customer and you win it, just post your order number in the chat, and I'll pull your email and get you set up with the code. So anyways, I appreciate you guys coming back. I really hope you guys learned something. Sorry that, like I said, just a lot of stuff going on. You know, I've got, yeah, there's a lot of shit going on right now. So, but I appreciate you guys being here. Hope I'm helping people out with, you know, what we do here and my little videos. So, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and roll it, and we're going to see who won. Joe Velasco. That name sounds familiar. Joe, are you here? Joe. I'm going to check. I feel like Joe's a customer. That name sounds familiar. Joe? That name sounds familiar. I don't know why. Joe, do you have an existing order that I can look up to get your email address? Do not post your email in the chat. I'm trying to see. Let's search your name, Velasco. No, I don't. Galaska. Okay. Let me just, well, I got you here. Let me see. God dang it, Bobby. Oh my God. I'm trying to search and I use ShipStation and I'm clicking the advanced search and it's like going back to the other thing. All right. Anyways, Joe, make it simple here. Send an email to streams. Unless you're on Discord. If you're on Discord, my username is House of Bugs. I'm in the E3D Discord, so you can PM me your email on Discord if you're in our Discord server. If not, you can email streams at th3dstudio.com, and I will enter in the gift card, and it'll just get emailed to you. So we're fancy. We've got a gift card system like Amazon. You can gift other people cards. You can also schedule when the cards go out. So it's pretty sweet, and it just applies it to your account. So I appreciate everybody stopping by. Oh, did you PM me? What's your Joe? Did you PM me already? Wait. Oh, never mind. That's the guy who won it earlier. Anyways, I appreciate you guys stopping by. Again, these will be done once a week. I feel like doing 2 is a little much. I am going to try to schedule other random streams throughout the day instead of having, 2 Ask Tims. I felt like I was getting kind of lazy with that. So Wednesdays, 2 o'clock Central Time, unless something comes up. If it does, I'll make sure to let you guys know. So 2 o'clock Central Time is when these will be. I appreciate everybody that stopped by. I hope you guys have an awesome day. And as always, happy printing. I'll see you guys on the next one.